Hi, I'm Paul Brodie. We're in my shop. There's a man on the other side of the camera. His name is Mitch, and we thank him for doing what he does, editing, filming, all that. We had some comments from some viewers. There's a small town in Ohio, and I have 5 different ways to pronunciate the name of the town. So Mitch is going to flash that card up on screen, and I chose number 4. I think it's pronounced Illyria. That's my best pronunciation, so hopefully we can just leave it at that. Now, I also had a comment yesterday from someone else, and they say that I'm pronouncing Aermacchi wrong. I've been saying it the same way for a lot of years, and he thinks that I should say it Aermacchi. Well, I talked with a gentleman years ago when I got interested in Aermacchi, and he says that he was from that area of northern Italy where the bikes were built, and you need to roll the R very slightly. It's subtle, so it would be Aermacchi. It's hard to do. So I guess I'm lazy. I say Aermacchi. I'm not rolling the R, but you can hear the R. If I had to roll the R every time, that's a lot more work. So sorry for my laziness, but here we are. We've got some things to do today. I think what I'll do first is to update you what's going on. On the swing arm of the Aermacchi, I welded on the tab for the torque stay. And when I got that on, I set the bike up, and that's when I discovered that I made a torque stay. The torque stay is too long. The hole should be right here. So I have a piece of metal that's a little shorter. I get to save some weight too. I took the carb apart. This is what we worked on last week. This is the intake system. I took the carb apart, and we got all the pieces here. We got the slide, we got the needle, we got the pilot jet, main jet, needle jet, and everything is wrong. Everything needs to be replaced. So I know that I can just order all this stuff, but I was thinking I've got lots of used carb parts, none that are right. So that's my list of what I need. So I'm putting this out to you. If you have stuff lying around on a shelf for years, that's what I need. Maybe we can do something. Maybe you want to help out with the project. That would be great. Thank you. We don't have a big project today like backing plate, intake system. I have a list. I have a list of things to do. Got 7 things. Don't know if that's all going to happen today, but we'll make a start. First thing we're going to do is to fix the dent in the side case here. So thanks for tuning in. Let's get going. We have the side case off the Aermacchi here, and can you see there's a dent here? There's like a flat, you can maybe see that there's a flat spot there. So I haven't done this before, but I thought what I'd do is if I made something to hold here, I made up a pattern out of cardboard, and I like the shape of that. So then I made something out of aluminum. Can you see how it fits quite nicely? So I'm going to set that up, then I'm going to put a C-clamp on either side. So got a piece of metal, I can bolt this, hold it in there, and then I'm going to heat this up with a torch. And I've got a piece of wood. I've rounded the end a little bit there. And when I heat it up, I'm going to use a hammer, and I'm going to see if I can take out that flat spot. This is just flat bar. It's like maybe a couple of inches by half. Just regular steel cold rolled flat bar. When you heat something like this, you always keep the torch moving. You never just hold it on one spot. Keep it moving. It should go a little easier than that, so a bit more heat. Still looks like there's a little bit of a space there, but it's definitely closer. I think that's okay. I don't put a cover in there anyway because it's the clutch in there. It's a dry clutch, so it's just open anyway. So it's just for make it look nice. So I think we'll say that's good. We're going to work on the rear sprocket. I have a drawing I made, and it's got the angles, how much I got to move the rotary table. It's 26 degrees and then 34 and 26, 34 because these holes go in between the bolt holes. So got the mill set up. I'm holding it on the inside of the bore here. Going to use a center drill, a drill that's a little bit over 3/4, and then the boring bar to make a nice smooth finish. I've spaced these holes a little bit wider than what I've got shown there. So hopefully we're good. Oh, I see it's going to flex. Oh well, let's see what happens. Okay, so go to 43. We're going to put the boring bar in now and just make a nice small cut on each one. I'm saving time by oiling them all at the outset. Okay. We just have to deburr, put a little chamfer on each of the holes, both sides, and then we're good. I've got to stop here, and then I can make all of the chamfers identical. There's my stop. That's the cush drive. I spray painted it gray. And that's what it looks like. That looks way more racy. We're going to weigh it now. See how much, Mitch, how much weight did we save? How many grams?
How many holes are there?
It's 12.
96.
96. I'm going for 35 grams. So 248.5 subtract 192.8 equals 55.7 grams we saved. That's a couple ounces. Okay, we're on to the next thing. I'm going to make a torque stay. Let's go look at the bike and I'll show you what's going on. On the swing arm, I welded on the mount for the torque stay. I positioned the backing plate where I wanted, so the air scoop is vertical. And to my surprise, that's where the hole wants to be, right there. So I don't know what I was thinking when I think I thought this was going to be up a little more, but this is where it sits nicely. So we need to make a new torque arm. So I got a piece of metal. I'll mark it out. We're going to use the bandsaw, the rotary table, and the mill, and some filing. That bit there gets filed. So I'm going to mark it out first. .8mm drill. We're drilling metric now. So I'm going to mill from this line over to that line, if you can see that. I don't want to mark the surface, so I got some cardboard to put under there, like that. I'm trying to blend it so that there's no sharp edge. So I've got my 1/4-inch rod with fuel line, and I've got some emery that's kind of used. I think that might work okay. I need to blend it. I've got 180 paper here. That's going to make it a little smoother. And for me, that's good. When you build a race bike, it's kind of like a puzzle. You have to find all the pieces, and sometimes that's not so hard, and sometimes it takes time. These all have to be drilled for safety wire and things like that, but right now it's mock-up still, so. All right, so there we go. That's one torque stay installed. And someone said, you know, you should have that on the outside, because if you ever had a crash and something was to catch that, well, I think if you're sliding down the road and something catches that, you got a lot of trouble aside from something catching that. So I think that'll be just fine. Over here we've got a 5-speed Aermacchi transmission out of a 73 or 74 model, and where the sprocket goes is on here, just like that. So this sits in the engine like so, and this is the other part that goes like that. So these two mesh together. That is your basic 5-speed Aermacchi transmission. So if you want to go racing, you need to make it a close ratio. So what you do is, I ordered these parts out of Germany. There's a gentleman over there, Rudolf Young Johann, and he's been selling racing parts for a long time. So you change the output. See this? This goes there, and this is replacing that. This is larger than that, and this is smaller than the gear here. So you are changing the final ratio, and by changing the final ratio, you alter all of the ratios in the transmission. It becomes close ratio. So how we do this is we take off this, and we put this one on like that. That's really simple. This one here is not so simple, because it goes on, it's like a spline. It has to be pressed on. So we'll take off pieces, and only so much comes off. After that, it doesn't come off. Now we go to the arbor press, and I made these years ago. We have to press off this gear. That's how you do the conversion. If you don't have these, I don't know how you do it. You have to have something like this. I'll get some blocks to go under the side, and we'll press that off, and then we'll press this gear on. So I've got some blocks to build this up to get a height. And I hold my hand under here to catch it. There you go. It's not a really hard press fit, but it's a press fit. So that gets pressed on like so. So I'll get a socket or something to fit over here. Have to make sure this starts fairly straight. So we're just gonna, oh yeah, there we go. And that's the conversion done. Because these have to interlock here. And if you look, you can see the rub marks where these have been engaging in there. So that goes on like so. And then when the shifter fork moves it over, it engages. So there is a Aermacchi transmission, and now this is close ratio. So that's one more thing we can knock off the list. We've done 4 things today. I ordered a tachometer for the bike, and it came, but look, it's used. Look at that. And all the ends of the wires, that's not brand new. So, and I didn't like the face. I like a white face. This does not look like a vintage tachometer, all the yellow and black. So a new tach is coming. Just have to wait. And the shocks are coming too. We don't have shocks yet. So last thing we're going to do is we're going to, well, today we're going to work on the seat. Can you see how this is all bowed down? I think what happened is, I didn't make this. I think it got taken out of the mold too fast. I don't know. So anyway, I have to fix this because this mounts onto here and this is flat. So we need to make this flat. What I'm going to do is to cut this out. Cut it out. We're going to mount this. This is going to be on some wax paper. I've set a height here so that when I do this, see how it holds it like that? And now I can fiberglass the inside onto the wax paper. It's not going to stick to the wax paper. So we have to go through a process of grinding away. I've got a cutoff wheel, which is a diamond wheel. And we have to cut out. We have to round the corners. I use a spiral roll, a cartridge roll, and then we have to make a little bit of a angle up, and then we'll fiberglass this. So a little bit of fiberglass work today, just to mix it all up. I got a diamond wheel here. That's what cuts fiberglass, and it's dusty, so I've got a paint suit on so I don't get myself too dusty. And we'll just see what happens. So I'm looking for a small edge all along here, not a step, but just a thin edge. And that looks like it'll work. So I'm going to blow this off and we'll go inside and we'll set up for fiberglassing. I don't cut the mat. I always rip it by hand, because then when you flare in the edges with the resin, it all becomes smooth. If you cut it, you get a line. And I don't like the line. So This just helps me to know what size to rip. That's about the size I need. So I can take some off right here. So I'm ripping it more or less in a straight line, or trying to. It needs to come up the sides a little bit, so there. It needs to overhang, and you see how it goes up the sides? I'm going to do 3 of these. If you do too much, you can get into a situation that's called exotherm. There's so much resin there that it heats up and it starts to boil almost. You don't want that. So if I do 3 layers, that's pretty strong. And it won't exotherm. So there's the 3. I've got my resin. It's just polyester resin, nothing fancy. I've got my catalyst. You mix it a ratio of 1 to 2%. And then I'm going to put acetone into this one because you need to dip the brush in sometimes, or I might use a roller in the bottom. I'm not pouring out of this big container because it's pretty full and I know I'm going to make a mess. So I don't need that much fiberglass. So I'm just going to put enough into the yogurt container. And I think that's going to be enough. Okay, so I'm going to estimate 1 to 2%, and it's a small job so I can work pretty quick. There we go. Try that. So what sets off the resin is light and heat. So now it's activated. So it started its process of hardening up. So when you hold the container, you don't want to hold it on the bottom. If you hold it like that, you're getting the heat from your hand in there. You don't want to do that. You want to hold it up here because then the heat from your hand isn't affecting the actual resin. There's a lot of little tricks I learned off a friend called George. So we got the resin, got the cloth, so we're going to wet it out a bit. And this is why you wear gloves, because it ends up sticking to your hands and it's not always nice. So there's the first layer. This is not going to take too long. I've done my share of fiberglass. I like doing it. I don't mind the smell so much. And it's neat what you can make out of fiberglass and matte cloth. You can make all sorts of shapes. So I like that about it. It's strong, you can paint it. I'm not seeing many air bubbles here, so that's good. If you get a real compound shape, that's when you can get into bubbles and pockets. So there's the second one. And I will use the little roller here. If when you're working and the brush starts to go hard, you just put it right into the acetone. I never knew that for years when I was doing fiberglass. The brush would start to go all weird, you know, as it starts to dry. I never knew that you could put the brush into acetone and then go right back to working. That was a huge learning curve. And also on the roller, you can put the roller into the acetone and it helps to stop all the resin in the cloth from sticking. See all the little bubbles in that? Can you see them, all the little bubbles coming out? This is one of the satisfying parts of when you're laying up something. You get it all of the resin and the cloth is on, and then you smooth it out with a roller and you get rid of all the bubbles, and it also helps to smooth it. You can go back and forth this way too. So that's basically, we're basically done. I just have to clean off my tools. And that turned out quite nice. It's a simple job. It's not complex, but it turned out fine. Okay. If you don't wash your brush, you don't get to use it again. Pretty simple. We're going to build a throttle cable now. So while this is on the bench here, cylinder head intake system, I wanted to show you a couple of things. What you could do is to put the throttle cable right into the cob, and then it has to kind of make its way up. I like to angle it with a stainless steel tube. These are out of the bicycle industry. These are off of a V-brake, which now is getting to be a pretty old brake. So they come in different bends, and if you're careful in the vise, you can always open it up or close it a little bit. What's nice about these, see inside there's a Teflon liner. So that helps the cable to slide better. So this end, that's what it comes with. Can you see how it's sloppy? So what I did here, I made a custom little fitting out of aluminum. Can you see how that's a nice fit? And I think that's going to angle pretty nicely towards around to the throttle. I wanted to talk about the actual cable as well. There's two styles of cable basically. This is like the old style, and it's wound like that. There's one wire that's closely bound, and you can bend it and you can break it. See how it kinks like that? I don't use this. What I want is, it's called SIS cable. Actually, this cable has the wires running along the cable. There's about, I don't know, a couple dozen little wires. So you can bend this, but it does not want to, it always wants to stay intact. So I highly recommend this kind of a cable. On the inner cable, the inner cables aren't all the same. I like the old style, the ones you can solder. If you get a new one, which is made out of stainless steel, you can't solder it. So if you are going to make up a cable, always make sure that you can solder it, because you'll get a much better result. We're going to put this onto the bike now, and then we're going to figure out how much of the outer cable we need, and then we have to figure out how much extra of the inner cable goes down on each end into the carburetor, and up at the other end into the throttle. So I'll show you how I do that. It's nice that you can put the cylinder head on and off so easily. It's very nice. I think that's what I did last time. Came around like that. That's nice, eh? See, it's right up close to the tube. I like that. Okay, so now the next thing is to figure out how long each end of the cable is going to be. Okay, so that's how the cable fits in there. And the slide's going all the way up and down. That's what it looks like. Maybe you want a shot in there because some of the viewers are saying, well, why don't you use a Mikuni cob? But if you look inside here, do you see how everything is perfectly smooth? There's no irregularities, bumps or anything like that. And I think that's why these cobs flow better. So we're going to see what's inside. I haven't actually had this off yet. See? Oh, I see. So you actually have to take it apart to get the cable in there. You can't just feed in a cable just like this. Not like on my trials bike. That's a lot easier. Taking apart the throttle now. Okay, that's coming through. That's how that goes. Okay, that's a lot of range. So I'm marking the very end of the cable again. .25 equals 8.575. I think that's my... It's not easy making cables. So after all that, I think the cable end is supposed to go right there. If I'm wrong, that's a problem. There's the red felt pen line. So we have to make a brass ferrule. How long can that take? Not long. So I got a V block here, and I want to put a punch right in the middle of it. So now we need a countersink because that's where the solder is going to go into. That's what we end up with after all that. Little piece of brass. There we go, there we go. And my felt pen line is right there. Okay, we're going to try that. There we go. That's it. Kind of blobbed down the side, but oh, came off. Time to put it all together. It's got a little bit of slop. I need to work on it a bit, but There we go, we got a throttle cable. Bit of work. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed all these different little bits on a race bike. It's not just the big projects that make a bike, but a lot of little things as well. Mitch and I like coffee. If you buy us a coffee, that'd be great. Thank you. See you next week. We'll have another project for you. Stay safe.